Welcome back to another episode of Uncover the Human. We are here once more in the studio alone.
We
Welcome back,
are.
Christina.
Besides my kids that are right here outside getting some toys to play with. They may or may not come on the podcast sometime soon.
I have a cat throwing a toy around here somewhere by himself. He's pretty upset that I'm not doing this for him. So here we are. It's
Yes,
the
and we're going to talk
disappointments you have
about
to live with in
community.
life. Yeah, so community has been a fascinating portion of our journey with Siamo, and it's been just an ever-expanding idea of how powerful it is. So let's talk a little bit about community. What comes to mind first, Christina, when you think about community?
Oh, so many things. But as you were introducing the topic, I realized how when you make certain decisions and use certain words, they manifest, even if you don't know how they will manifest. So something even as simple as our company name, Siamo, which means we are in Italian. It was a great company name. There was a whole meaning. Still a whole meaning behind it. But when we came up with it, it was more of a future state than a present state. It was a vision. It was a dream. It was a hope that the we would actually be that powerful and that much of our daily lives. And now that we're in it, after a couple of years, it's like, oh wait, we created the we of the name.
Yeah,
It
suddenly we're in
exists.
a we.
We're in a we, and not a Nintendo game. Even though it may be.
Maybe.
Maybe we don't know that.
It's true. We talked about it back when, even before we had a podcast, before we did anything, we were like, let's talk about it. When we finally came up with, settled on this as the company name, because we danced around a lot of things that had to do with connection and had to do with the humanity and just getting that social nature. And it fits exactly with, we've turned it into exactly what we, I think, wanted it to be, which I think is the power of using words. You kind of put an idea in your brain, you're kind of incepting yourself of, hey, this is kind of how I would like this to work. And then when you get opportunities that would open that door, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, well, let's open that door, which takes decision fatigue way down, change excitement way up, and you get to slowly create the things that you wanted to create, the future that you thought about and put a word to at some point. So we thought about, connection, working with human nature. We thought about how humans are social and how together, and the fact that we always were dependent on each other, because that's how we evolved. We always were dependent and will be dependent, and we can work better as a we came up with Siamo, and now we have a whole much larger community we've gotten to be plugged into, which is honestly probably one of the best parts about our entire Siamo journey, is finding this community of all of these people that want to make things better for the world, for people. It is our we, and it came out of just having this idea of a we that we listened for. We listened for the little things that were available, and it's much easier to choose those things when they pop up.
Yeah, very well said. We listened for it. We created it. We had no idea how to create it. But I think we went to what made sense for us, what was organic. And, between the pandemic and between wanting to do a podcast and other things, the organic way for us was just one person at a time. Wasn't to start with a big bang. Okay, well, the we has to have 100 people and they have to meet once a month and they have to be this type of person. And this is what happens when they come together. Hence, listen to our change podcast recording before this one on those plans and how well they work out. It was more about what's the feeling, what's the experience we want to have, what are the feelings we want to have when we think about a we. And those feelings were really to connect as humans, was to find other people that we could have very insightful and learning conversations with, was to find that people, we didn't even have really a goal for the conversations themselves. It was just about connecting. It's like, how can we connect? And the best way to connect is curiosity, is finding people that want to share what their passions are about and see what happens. Some of them we've gotten very close to. Others, they're great partners and great community members. But the connection piece is with all of them.
Yeah. I love that I'm gonna put that on the wall. The best way to create connection is through curiosity. That's gonna get put on our virtual office space.
Yes.
It's a great point, and the way in kind of an interesting almost paradox, but it does fit with our mission. We wanted, when we were starting a company, we kind of wanted to say over how do we want this to go. And one of the things we wanted was to build a community. So we simultaneously wanted some amount of our own autonomy and direction while building a larger network and partnership and community. And that's worked out incredibly well. I think about our conversation with Angela Hayroth when she was talking about the gig economy and how basically you can replace large portions, and it's a great there's the ability to let people specialize in what they want to specialize in. Everybody can contribute their gifts, and you get more out of it. And you can let this be kind of on a gig basis. And that's what we've started to create with our network of partners now. We have people we can bring in on projects. We can bring them in for workshops, for one-off things, for one-on-one coaching, for full projects as just the help that we need. And we deeply appreciate having all of these people around. And we get this chance to be part of this network of semi-autonomous, semi-connected companies and people. And it's been kind of incredible to see that grow.
Mm-hmm. It has been.
I would like.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I'd like to come up with a less horrifying analogy than this, but it's kind of like a petri dish. Like you just kind of you leave something there and suddenly it's growing. I'd like it to not be compared to mold, but there is something really cool about you just plant an idea and you suddenly, one day you look and there's gross mold on top of it. I need a better metaphor.
yeah. Could we go with the seed metaphor of
God, that's so much better. Let's do that.
Maybe a seed of aspen trees, since they're all connected.
The grove.
Yes, they're their own trees, but they're also part of a much bigger network, and they are all connected that way. And actually, there was just I want to find this quote that I saw this morning that says, when we started this, again, it was our vision, it was a dream, it was words, but it was more than that. It was the energy, I think, that we put into, we believe in this. We have no idea how it's going to go, how long it's going to take, but we believe in it. And then we kind of let it go after that. But this quote actually is, I found very inspirational this morning. It says, "You wouldn't plant a seed and then dig it up every few minutes to see if it has grown. So why do you keep questioning yourself, your hard work, and your decisions? Have patience, stop overthinking, and keep watering your seeds." Which is a lot of what we did. We questioned ourselves. We had doubts, all of that. Mm-hmm. But we also left the seed there. We never took the seed out and nope, you don't work. Sorry. Find another seed, and then dig it up every morning and then wonder why it's not growing.
That is a much better metaphor than mold, and also just a better metaphor in general. That actually would have been a pretty good metaphor in our change podcast as well, because that you do have to plant seeds and you do have to have the patience to see how and when it's going to grow, because at some point, generally with the patience and the nurturing and the not digging it up every 30 seconds to see what's happening, you get buds and you get a flower and you get a tree. You get these come out with patience and time. And I cannot truly reiterate enough for people how difficult it would have been to try and plan for this. We didn't know how to create this. We didn't know and I think part of the reason it has succeeded is because we didn't get caught up on that. We didn't say we have to have 400 people by next March or this whole thing's a failure or whatever. We didn't set exactly those. We just set the intention. Mm-hmm. When you have the intention, you can attach things to it as you find them on the way. And it's a lot easier to build it organically. And it wasn't, the core thing that we had to do to keep running. And we also wanted to do things like a podcast, and a podcast became then a vessel of that original aim, that original goal. Mm-hmm. And you do all of these other things and you look back and your seed is growing.
Yeah.
It's come out of the ground.
Yeah. And even the podcast, if I think about us starting the podcast, our initial intention wasn't to build community. It was just to have conversations that we were already having, and might as well record them and put them out there and see if anybody else finds value to them. And even the idea of having guests wasn't immediate. I mean, it was, again, a vision, a dream, a hope. Oh, when and if, one day we want to, we can bring on these guests. How about we make a list just in case we need it? It was that plan B piece almost. And then the guests turned into bringing other guests, and they turned into partners, and they turned into community, and they turned into people that we work with on their projects and their client work, and people that work with us on client work. They turn into clients potentially, and sometimes they are clients, can also be podcast guests and vice versa. And so all these things sprouted, and we had no idea were going to happen, just with the focus of we want to live in a we. It wasn't even we want to build a we. We want to live in a we.
That's two incredibly important parts. First, because you already said the best way to create connection is curiosity, and that's what ended up being the growth here. We have things like the podcast. We were just curious about doing a podcast. We wanted to do it. We wanted to have these conversations and document them and have some idea and see what could spread from it. And then we were curious about guests, and we just kept the door open, and that became connected to the larger other portion of getting that we. And I love what you said about wanting to live in the we, because that's one of the things they talk about in things like I think it's Atomic Habits. They talk about you want to change something, you have to have basically an identity change. It's not I want to quit smoking, it's I want to be somebody who doesn't smoke. Right. So you're living as a non-smoker, not as somebody who is struggling to let go of this. Because if you want to live as somebody struggling, you'll live as somebody struggling. So when we put our intention to live in the we, it became like the identity was there. The identity desire was there, at which point you work on the community. And it becomes such a feedback loop that we couldn't have predicted the ways that it would work. But I can recommend now in retrospect that method of building. Like you get that curiosity, you find that just, hey, I want to just connect with people, and you get a whole network. You get a community, you get partnerships, you get work, you give work, you have this just ecosystem that starts to feed itself. And it's really incredible to watch this grow and to be part of it.
Yeah, it's so true. It really brings the infinite mindset to building a business, I think. Because like you said, like you give work and you get work, and it's not with that transactional intention. So you don't just connect with people because you want something from them. The connection itself is what we wanted. There wasn't an ulterior motive. There wasn't like they'll recommend me with people that go to them. So let me just be in touch with the people that will recommend me. Or, I can hire them as contractors. So let's only be in touch with the people that I can hire as contractors, or whatever it is that the business motive behind it is. Our motive to connect with people is to connect. We literally we do not have ulterior motives. We don't have expectations. We don't have any of that. We just want to connect. We just want to have the conversations. We want to have the happy hours. We want to brainstorm and learn and have support. And that's it. And that then turned into, hey, I've got this client that will be perfect for you. Or, hey, I've got this project. Can you guys help us out? And we do the same thing. It's like, we've got this request, we've got this project, we've got this workshop, and we need extra help, or it's outside of our scope right now, our realm. Can you, here's a reference. Why don't you go do it?
Yeah. And I can't express enough how exciting it is to give people work. That's something I didn't really, a world I didn't know much before. I've always worked within companies, and companies all have this kind of weird silo, like we're the company and everybody else is the competitors or whatever. Those are vendors, or whatever the box you're going to go put somebody in is. But the excitement of being able to give people work is incredible, and something I wouldn't have known going into this. And I love what you said about like this was like the intention was just to connect. This is it kind of reminds me of what the Siamo journey and at the core has been. We just decide some kind of intention we want to do, and then we end up building the pieces that you would need in a business by default. And it's incredible because you don't have to sit and stress about exactly what you're saying about, like, well, which connections can I use for clients? Which connections can I use for contractors? Wait, it's not really about that. And the relationships have changed. Some people we have as connections, and we're going to use their services, and just by chance of having learned more about them. Some people, like, what we'll just won't talk for a little bit. We'll see them we'll see them for a bit, bring them in as a contractor. Later they're a client. Later they're a contractor again. It doesn't matter because you're not trying to put a box on it. You're just staying in touch. And that was this. It reminds me of our intentions every time we start a project. We tell people, like, hey, we're here to give you some tools, transition out. We want you to be able to run on your own. And every time this ends up manifesting as us being called to come back in and do more, because we're there just to do the value portion of it, and then it becomes valuable enough, people ask you back anyway. And it was never part of the strategy. It was literally part of our strategy to not be pigeonholed. We mostly were like, no, I don't want to sit on one project for a long time. And so we were like, no, we absolutely want to do this in a way where we hand this off. And it became something that was a valuable business development tool that we fell just ass backwards into.
Yes. And because, like you said, like, the focus was never to sell. We don't have conversation to sell. We don't walk into a project with the idea of, like, oh, how can we make this into a multi-year client, a multi-year project, and how can we, drag it on or find other areas to solve and all of that. We just go in with,
fires can I light to go put out later?
Yeah, exactly. What fires can I create on the side that didn't exist before so that I can go fix them? Or even what fires can I find that were not the intention that we were brought into? And so, and it's not like we ignored them, we point them out, but we don't point them out in a sense like, hey, we see that we could help with as well. We kind of point them out. It's like, hey, you've got that going. Somebody may want to pay attention to it before it burns down the house. Just pointing it. Just saying
we're all in this house right now, and I don't want it to fall over.
I know, that will impact what we're doing over here. So can somebody take care of that, or keep an eye on it? Yeah, but it's that the intention was always, they bring us in, they have a goal, we work hard to help them reach that goal, and that's it. The intention is also, you can do this without us. If you're still doing this with us after way longer than we need to be here, then we didn't do our job. We didn't provide our value. And so that goes back to, what are we here to do? Sell or provide value? If we're providing value, at some point you will not need us and want us around. You may want us, but you will not need us.
Yeah. But you'll think of us when you have another project sometime down the line.
Maybe or maybe not. And that's fine too.
I don't mean that even as an intention. I'm just saying, like, if we can do this right, and if we can actually support, it's a lot easier to think about the people that have helped you when you're like, oh, I need some help again. Like, you don't think back to the person that stubbed your toe on a bunch of things and that made you really angry. That's not the person you think of when you need something. And again, this was not the intention. Wasn't to make this like, oh yeah, we're gonna make sure that we're valuable this way. It just, we wanted to do the work that way. And then by default, this authenticity is what has carried us in both ends of this. The authenticity of just kind of wanting the connections that became, because why would it not end up just being a symbiotic relationship, and not for work reasons? Just that is one of the things that people support each other on, because work is a big part of our lives. We support each other just as people. You do this with your neighbors. You do this with everybody. We are there to support. Work happens to be an angle at which we also support people. We help them, they help us. We help them with their personal stuff. We have happy hours. Like, there's just the authenticity of the connection is there, and the authenticity of, we're here just to work and solve. Like, we just, that's what we like to do. We like to do this weird complex problem solving that occasionally is frustrating, occasionally is incredible, and just, that's what we want to do. So you approach it from there, it's kind of hard to go wrong, and it's hard to give yourself enough courage to do that. But if you want a community, authenticity and curiosity really can't be beat.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you said, and I'm going to butcher it now because it's been long enough that I don't remember which words you used. But poster number 10 on our future office, talk about putting intentions out in the universe, and then the universe comes back and smacks us in the face with them when they actually happen. And they're like, you asked for this, you and this. They're like, no, I'm actually not ready. Hold on.
Oh, crap.
I know. So yeah, poster number 10, I think it's, you said something like we're just there to support the people, to help as people. It's not about business to business, business to common. It's not like B2B, B2C, C2C, X to X. I don't even know what alphabet we're on at this point. It's just, how can we support the human? It's truly, I guess, H to H is a new thing. So it's truly human to human. There is no ulterior motives. There is no transaction that's expectation. There's just, you're a human, I'm a human. We're in this world. How can we support? And support sometimes is having a happy hour. Sometimes it's listening. Sometimes it's sending recommendations of clients or other services that we use. Anything.
Yeah. And absolutely, we've done that like 10,000 times. We have an amazing support system of like vendors that we use that we have been incredibly helpful, like in producing this podcast, in doing social media marketing, and helping us with all kinds of things. And all day long, I will happily pass out that reference because my God, they're incredible. They do great work for us, and I'm so grateful. And that's exactly kind of it. We did this as like, hey, we could use some help. We found people who we can connect with, and they do incredible work. Like, why would I not pass that on? This human H to H thing is, I think, hard to immediately get into for a lot of people because it requires letting go of the expectation that you're doing something the right way to get some specific end. It's about you'll find that again because you have the intention, and you'll be listening for the things that help you build the things that you want to build. But you just do it through the curiosity and the allowing things to grow organically, and not even in a business sense. It's just growing relationships because it's good to have relationships. We're a social being.
Yeah, we are. And so when you focus on that first, the rest kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't have to do this alone. We can't do this alone. It's not even we don't have to. We cannot do this alone. Yeah. So let's just expand, and whatever it is, there's another human or other humans that can help us through that. And we can reciprocate. And so when the intention is just to maintain a relationship, just to connect, and I said, the possibilities that come out of that are infinite. We still don't know what possibilities are. We still get, podcast guests that come back to us. It's like, hey, I'm starting this whole new project at this new company and I want to talk to you guys. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Never the intention, never asked, never expected it.
But we led with curiosity. We now know about what they do. They know what we do. And of course, I want the help on that. I don't want to try to become the expert on everything. It will never work. I want to learn about lots of things just for curiosity's sake, but I know I can't do all these things. And the more you do, the more you realize what you kind of want to do. And then you want the support system. You want the other people to help you out on the areas that they really like, that you either can't do as well or just don't have interest in doing now, or you really would appreciate the help with. And man, it's been such a powerful, and I think the reason it's hard is it does take some vulnerability to do that. You have to let go of some of the expectations, and that's not easy at all, especially since every article you have is that you'll be put out on LinkedIn or something will be something like you're talking about, the B2B, B2C. This is the new B2C strategy. Here's this very narrow window of like, and it's not that there aren't helpful thoughts in that, but if you don't allow that to be part of a larger picture or allow some flexibility, it's very easy to miss opportunities, and it's very easy to miss growth as a person, as a human.
Yeah. And it's true. Like if you function in that narrow mind, well, your world just got narrower, a lot narrower than it could have been. If everything is a transaction, our friend JC Quintana talks about that. Relationships, they can be transactional relationships. They're not going to be long lasting when they are transactional relationships. and they're only gonna give you exactly what you buy, or what you sell, and that's it. And it's a lot easier to move on from a transactional relationship than a human relationship, where the transaction is not the core of everything. The transaction is not, like I only hear from that person when they need something. Everybody has that. Everybody knows that. And it's fine. Sometimes, maybe it's the right timing. Maybe it's the right situation to say yes. And the rest of the time, though, you're probably going to go to the ones that reach out to you because they haven't heard from you in a while. And they just want to know how you are as a human. Those are the ones that you bring on as partners. Those are the ones that you'll give work to, that you cannot do as a company, or you want to refer clients to.
Yeah. And again, it's addictive to do it. Like the second you get to help the people that you're already connected with, like that, it's a great feeling, and not one that I couldn't have predicted that being as impactful as it has been. It's just so incredible to get the chance to hand things to people, because you're like, oh my God, here's this person that I really like, that I want to see succeed, and I have a chance to help them do that. And that's incredible.
Yeah. One of my biggest learning lessons in my career, and it does come from one of my very first jobs, one of my very first bosses. So he did make an impact. He told me 20 some years ago, he told me that to never become indispensable in a job, because if you're indispensable, you're not promotable. And at that moment, I was in my mid-20s, and becoming indispensable was, an identity of like, well, like if I'm so indispensable, they can never get rid of me, especially, as I was seeing layoffs happen around me. So I'm like, that has to be a goal. Become indispensable. Make it so that they absolutely cannot function without you. And the minute he told me that, it kind of like, it was one of those seeds. Like he planted the seed. It was very much Inception. He planted the seed, and I couldn't quite get it. And I didn't get it for many years, until I realized how liberating and satisfying and fulfilling it is to work yourself out of a job. And that's what he meant. He meant, be good enough, do all the work to learn and be great at what you do, but also find a way to start when you get to that greatness, when you get to that expertise level, or to that level where things are functioning on autopilot almost, that's when start looking at how you transition out of that. How can you move your skills? How can you help grow a team? How can you help somebody else pick that up so that you can work yourself out of a job and move into your next adventure, into your next learning, to your next growth, into your next role? And so, when I think about community, I always think about that infinite mindset includes that. That infinite mindset includes the fact that so-and-so in our community, yes, come to us if we can help. And then let's figure out how we stop that. How do we grow ourselves out of that in a way that helps both of us?
That's really good. And another piece that requires some vulnerability. Like you have to be willing to say, no, I want to become not needed. I want to become like, and having that trust that there will be more to grow into. And it sounds scary when you put it that way, but if you think about the flip side, you can then like the flip side is you try and become indispensable, and now you're going to feel stuck because this is the thing you can do really well. This is the thing now. What else can you do? It starts to feel like, well, maybe there isn't anything else, or I couldn't do it as well as I do this. And how can I? Then you're stuck in a different loop. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's exactly what some people would love to do. Personally, I love the growth portion of it. I love the option to go do the next thing. And I want to see what else is out there. And I want to and that requires keeping some of that essentially internal faith that there is something next out there.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and from a community point of view, it switches from people reaching out and making that connection because they want to rather than they need to. So where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the need to? And sometimes we do. Sometimes we do want to be in the need to. They need to be in touch with me because I provide all these skills that they can't get easily somewhere else. That's great. That's awesome. And that helps learning, it helps growing, it helps financially, it helps in many other ways. But then there's the pool of people that are the want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's so much more powerful and takes patience to get to. And that's, I think, the part that is difficult to accept if you haven't gotten to do it. And I feel very lucky that we are, I'm not going to say on the other side of it or something. It's not two sides of a coin. We're in the growth of this. Mm-hmm. This is still a work in progress, but we can see the pieces that are reality of it, and it's easier now to know and look back and see the dots that connect. And it wasn't about trying to connect those dots specifically. It was about casting a large enough understanding of community that we could connect these dots. And there's still so much more growth to do. And it's you have to be very uncomfortable with a lot of ambiguity to let yourself do that. And that's uncomfortable. And I have absolute empathy for anybody who feels that is uncomfortable. It's difficult. It's hard to feel like, oh, I don't even know like what fog I'm wandering into. But having a community makes that a whole lot easier.
It definitely does. Yes. And I have another quote, since apparently this is the quote episode.
This is our quote episode.
The other quote, this is from a tea bag that I drank a couple of days ago and I liked it. So I kept it. And now it's, the tea bag is in the trash. But the quote, the piece of paper is in my hand. And it's, "The unknown is where all outcomes are possible. Enter it with grace."
That's nice.
Yeah. And so this works for both this community episode and the why change is hard episode. So go listen to that one.
This quote. I'm gonna butcher this if I try and do it. I'm gonna see if I can look it up. The Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart I've been listening to, which it's a great book. I think I'm gonna have to read it because there's so many definitions that visually I think I'd pick this up a lot better. But one excellent quote that I'm going to absolutely butcher. She quoted it from somebody else, I think, but it's that we have this emphasis, especially in like American culture, on this very much like rugged individualism, which is like the kind of when it runs rampant, it becomes the opposite of community. And the community still has autonomy, it still has the independence, it still has individuals, but this rugged individualism of I don't need anybody tends to run rampant, and we believe that then connection and community are almost to be avoided. Not even like the transactional ones. You should be able to do everything entirely on your own. But she was talking about how as a social species, the goal and the purpose and the meaning in life comes not from becoming autonomous. It comes from becoming the person people can depend on. And not that you have to constantly do like caregiving tasks, not that you're constantly just, helping everybody else out and you wear yourself down. It's that you have that capability and the mindset of the contribution back to the whole. That becomes meaning and purpose in a social species. And I don't have the quote on it, but I'll see if I can find it for our show notes because it's buried in the book somewhere.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. I have the book and I started reading it. I have to start listening as well because we like some Brene in our lives.
Yeah. It's good. It's a great book, and it's got lots of great. It talks about so many definitions of emotions, and it's worth the investigation. But it's a very dense one for it because there's so many definitions, which are all great linguistic help towards describing and using your own mental mindset. But that's an entirely different podcast. This one is
yes. This one will stick to community. So go find your community, build your community, figure out what's the first person you're gonna reach out to, who's in your community.
Yeah. And if you want to know where to start, you can always reach out to us because we're going to be curious about it anyway.
Yes, exactly. And we don't have a formula. Our formula is just reach out, be curious, find out what people love, what they're passionate about. H2H, which is not some sort of new water. It's just,
2 hydrogens and a hydrogen.
Not sure what that makes. A balloon that flies in the sky. Yeah. H to the third.
It probably doesn't exist.
No. Well, thank you for listening.
Very worth it. Very
community is worth it.
But
yes. And it cannot be planned.
Get curious and get authentic, and it's a lot easier to find community.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back soon with another episode. Enjoy.
Yes, thank you.